Fungi. By the end of this video, you will be able to list the characteristics of fungi. Figure 13.20. The familiar mushroom is only one type of fungus. The brightly colored fruiting bodies of this coral fungus are displayed. This electron micrograph shows the spore-bearing structures of Aspergillus, a type of toxic fungi found mostly in soil and plants. Welcome back to Concepts of Biology. We'll continue to read Chapter 13, Section 13.4. The word fungus comes from the Latin word for mushroom. Indeed, the familiar mushrooms are fungi, but there are many other types of fungi as well. The kingdom fungi includes an enormous variety of living organisms collectively referred to as Eumycota or true fungi. While scientists have identified about 100,000 species of fungi, this is only a fraction of the over 1 million species likely present on Earth. Edible mushrooms, yeast, black mold, and Penicillium notatum, the producer of the antibiotic penicillin, are all members of the kingdom fungi, which belongs to the domain Eukarya. As eukaryotes, a typical fungal cell contains a true nucleus and many membrane-bound organelles. Fungi were once considered plant-like organisms. However, DNA comparisons have shown that fungi are more closely related to animals than plants. Fungi are not capable of photosynthesis. They use complex organic compounds as sources of energy and carbon. Some fungal organisms multiply only asexually, whereas others undergo both asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Most fungi produce a large number of spores that are disseminated by the wind. Like bacteria, fungi play an essential role in ecosystems because they are decomposers and participate in the cycling of nutrients by breaking down organic materials into simple molecules. Fungi often interact with other organisms, forming mutually beneficial or mutualistic associations. Fungi also cause serious infections in plants and animals. For example, Dutch elm disease is a particularly devastating fungal infection that destroys many native species of elm, like the ulmus species. The fungus infects the vascular system of the tree. It was accidentally introduced to North America in the 1900s and decimated elm trees across the continent. Dutch elm disease is caused by the fungus Ophiostoma ulmi. The elm bark beetle acts as a vector and transmits the disease from tree to tree. Many European and Asiatic elms are less susceptible than American elms. In humans, fungal infections are generally considered challenging to treat because, unlike bacteria, they do not respond to traditional antibiotic therapy since they are also eukaryotes. These infections may prove deadly for individuals with a compromised immune system. Fungi have many commercial applications. The food industry uses yeast in baking, brewing, and winemaking. Many industrial compounds are byproducts of fungal fermentation. Fungi are the source of many commercial enzymes and antibiotics. Share the link. We want these free textbook resources to be available to other students. All right, let's get back to reading. Cell structure and function. Fungi are eukaryotes and as such have a complex cellular organization. As eukaryotes, fungal cells contain a membrane-bound nucleus. A few types of fungi have structures comparable to plasmids, loops of DNA seen in bacteria. Fungal cells also contain mitochondria and a complex system of internal membranes, including the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus. Fungal cells do not have chloroplasts. Although the photosynthetic pigment chlorophyll is absent, many fungi display bright colors ranging from red to green to black. The poisonous Amanita muscaria, fly agaric or fly agaric, is recognizable by its bright red cap with white patches. Pigments in fungi are associated with the cell wall and play a protective role against ultraviolet radiation. Some pigments are toxic. Figure 13.21. The poisonous Amanita muscaria is native to the temperate and boreal regions of North America. Like plant cells, fungal cells are surrounded by a thick cell wall. However, the rigid layers contain the complex polysaccharides chitin and glucan, and not cellulose that is used by plants. Chitin, also found in the exoskeleton of insects, gives structural strength to the cell walls of fungi. The cell wall protects the cell from desiccation and predators. Fungi have plasma membranes similar to other eukaryotes, except that the structure is stabilized by ergosterol, a steroid molecule that functions like the cholesterol found in animal cell membranes. Most members of the kingdom fungi are non-motile. Flagella are produced only by the gametes in the primitive division Chytridiomycota. Growth and reproduction. The vegetative body of a fungus is called a thallus and can be unicellular or multicellular. Some fungi are dimorphic because they can go from being unicellular to multicellular depending on environmental conditions. Unicellular fungi are generally referred to as yeasts. Saccharomyces cerevisiae or baker's yeast and Candida species, the agents of thrush, a common fungal infection, are examples of unicellular fungi. Most fungi are multicellular organisms. They display two distinct morphological stages, vegetative and reproductive. The vegetative stage is characterized by a tangle of slender, thread-like structures called hyphae, singular hypha, whereas the reproductive stage can be more conspicuous. A mass of hyphae is called a mycelium. It can grow on a surface, in soil or decaying material, in a liquid, or even in or on living tissue. Although individual hyphae must be observed under a microscope, the mycelium of a fungus can be very large, with some species truly being, quote, the fungus humongous, unquote. The giant Armillaria osteae, or honey mushroom, is considered the largest organism on Earth, spreading across over 2,000 acres of underground soil in eastern Oregon. It is estimated to be at least 2,400 years old. Figure 13.22. The mycelium of the fungus Neotestudina rosati can be pathogenic to humans. The fungus enters through a cut or scrape and develops into a mycetoma, a chronic subcutaneous infection. Most fungal hyphae are divided into separate cells by end walls called septa, the singular septum. In most divisions, like plants, fungal phyla are called divisions by tradition. So in most divisions of fungi, tiny holes in the septa allow for the rapid flow of nutrients and small molecules from cell to cell along the hyphae. They are described as perforated septa. The hyphae in bread molds, which belongs to the division Zygomycota, are not separated by septa. They are formed by large cells containing many nuclei, an arrangement described as choanocytic hyphae. Fungi thrive in environments that are moist and slightly acidic and can grow with or without light. They vary in their oxygen requirements. Most fungi are obligate aerobes, requiring oxygen to survive. Other species, such as the Chytridiomycota that reside in the rumen of cattle, are obligate anaerobes, meaning that they cannot grow and reproduce in an environment with oxygen. Yeasts are intermediate. They grow best in the presence of oxygen, but can use fermentation in the absence of oxygen. The alcohol produced from yeast fermentation is used in wine and beer production, and the carbon dioxide they produce carbonates beer and sparkling wine and makes bread rise. Fungi can reproduce sexually or asexually. In both sexual and asexual reproduction, Fungi produce spores that disperse from the parent organism by either floating in the wind or hitching a ride on an animal. Fungal spores are smaller and lighter than plant seeds, but they are not usually released as high in the air. The giant puffball mushroom bursts open and releases trillions of spores. The huge number of spores released increases the likelihood of spores landing in an environment that will support growth. Figure 13.23. The giant puffball mushroom releases a cloud of spores when it reaches maturity. How fungi obtain nutrition. Like animals, fungi are heterotrophs. They use complex organic compounds as a source of carbon rather than fixing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, as some bacteria and most plants do. In addition, fungi do not fix nitrogen from the atmosphere. Like animals, they must obtain it from their diet. However, unlike most animals that ingest food and then digest it internally in specialized organs, fungi perform these steps in the reverse order. Digestion precedes ingestion. First, exoenzymes, enzymes that catalyze reactions on compounds outside of the cell, are transported out of the hyphae, where they break down nutrients in the environment. Then, the smaller molecules produced by the external digestion are absorbed through the large surface areas of the mycelium. As with animal cells, the fungal storage polysaccharide is glycogen rather than starch, as found in plants. Fungi are mostly saprobes, organisms that derive nutrients from decaying organic matter. They obtain their nutrients from dead or decomposing organic matter, mainly plant material. Fungal exoenzymes are able to break down insoluble polysaccharides, such as the cellulose and lignin of dead wood, into readily absorbable glucose molecules. Decomposers are important components of ecosystems because they return nutrients locked in dead bodies to a form that is usable for other organisms. This role is discussed in more detail later. Because of their varied metabolic pathways, fungi fulfill an important ecological role and are being investigated as potential tools in bioremediation. For example, some species of fungi can be used to break down diesel oil and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Other species take up heavy metals such as cadmium and lead. Now on to Section 13.4. Fungal diversity.